Me today, what I want to do is really quickly review the key announcements that were made for the regional appointments for the Health and Human Services. So these are the three people that are in charge of the three regions. And Alice Stanford is in charge of Region 3, and that includes Delaware, DC, Maryland, PA, Virginia, and West Virginia. And Charles Tyson is in charge of Region 4, and he covers Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. And Janine Boyd does Region 5 and serves Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, and Wisconsin. I wanted to just bring this up again because I think it's really important to accept the fact and really, truly try to wrap your brain around the fact that we are regionalized. So these Region 3s are a deconstruction of portions of the United States, also known as interstate compacts. And there are certain heads of the regions that are given authority. Authority is delegated to them. They are not voted into office. This is a problem in the United States of America because we're supposed to elect people who would have power over our life. And these people right here have the most power because, as I've mentioned before, and as I'm mentioning in my war crimes video essay, which I'm currently building and working on right now, power has been allocated to Health and Human Services in an enormous scope like you've never seen before. It was done, the Department of Defense ultimately handed power of the people over to the HHS. And, there is a video essay that we did a couple of years ago, 2 years ago actually, when we saw all the governors coming out and making their statements. We realized that they were making statements talking about COVID emergencies and lockdowns and sheltering in place and closing businesses. We realized they were making those statements because they were handing over their power. They don't even have the power to make those statements in the first place. So what this was a signaling, and we highlighted them and showcased them in these little, boxes here in our new model series called Deconstruction, where they were basically saying, this is it. This is the handing of the power over to regional authorities as handed down by the HHS. Okay, so I really wanted to drive that home and say that we need to stay focused on the sweet little marriage between the DoD and the HHS and the power that they have given to regional unelected appointees as opposed to elected officials. Okay, so I wanted to get over here to Bailiwick News and show you that the DoD has suspended something called Posse Comitatus at the direction of the Department of Justice in response to biological threats identified by HHS. So right now, the Health and Human Services Department has indicated that we are currently in a health crisis or some sort of health emergency. And so if they were to say that we are in a biological threat, Posse Comitatus would be or is suspended. What is Posse Comitatus? Posse Comitatus is the act that was signed on June 18th, 1878, which ultimately removed the military from civil law enforcement. So this means that when you are arrested, it's not the military who arrests you, it's your local police, right? But unfortunately, because of this strange marriage between the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, and the HHS, Posse Comitatus once again has been suspended, which is not a good thing. Somebody who noted that the National Defense Authorization Act and some of the language in it suspended Posse Comitatus was Chris Hedges. And so in January 2012, he filed a lawsuit against the Obama administration for violations of constitutional protections and violations of Posse Comitatus. Okay, So you can read about that lawsuit and find that these violations of Posse Comitatus have been pretty regular in this country. It's just that we don't think about stuff like that too often. Another issue that I wanted to address, or something else I wanted to address that I want to go back to, is this affidavit of noncompliance from Bailiwick News. So Catherine Watt, who's the writer of Bailiwick News, filed her affidavit of noncompliance with Center County, Pennsylvania on my birthday, actually. And basically what it says is that she is officially stamping it into the court record that she is not going to comply with these ongoing war crimes, such as the suspension of Posse Comitatus, things like that. And that she is imploring county sheriffs, prosecutors, and judges to investigate, prosecute, and bring civil and criminal charges against those who commit the war crimes. I had mentioned this to somebody, and they had said, no, I don't want to do this because it puts me on a list. And when I mentioned to JP that this person had said that, JP was like, well, we're all on a list. If you have a job, you're on a list. If you ever use a debit card, you're on a list. I know people personally who are very, very good at never using a debit card. They use cash for everything. They stay under the radar. They don't order anything online. They only go to local markets and, spend their money that way. They do as much as they can to stay under the radar. It doesn't matter. We're all on a list. And even when you're dead, you're on a list as well, because the hospital will put you on a list and call you a COVID death to make sure that they get their funding. The people who draw your blood to take your blood to the lab and look at it and then claim that you have some kind of virus have put you on a list. If you have children in school, you're on a list. If you breathe, you're on a list. So this affidavit of noncompliance, I still feel, is very important. It takes it down to a microscopic local level. It puts you in front of your local judge. It puts you in front of your local court clerk, who will file the affidavit under civil miscellaneous and then assign it a case number. This kind of thing is not going to make it so that, your life is made even more difficult than it already is. I would argue that they've already locked down the population. They've already told the population that they needed to be unemployed, and they've already coerced the population into doing harm to itself. So what more could they possibly do? They already have, quarantine camp type language and isolation language, under the National Conference of State Legislators, which I've talked about before, which are the quarantine and isolation statutes that are laid out in each state, which was updated in September of 2021. So I don't know, if anything, what the court system would do, or what your prosecutors, judges, or county sheriffs might do, is they might look at this little affidavit of noncompliance and laugh and say, isn't that cute? But you know what? I mean, the person who did this herself, she has written a blog post to talk about her personal experience when she went in and filed it herself, and the whole process around filing it. She is, not the kind of person. This is her in glasses, and this is my tool for making video essays. She is not going to, put herself on a list or put herself in any danger. She is, look at her. She's like completely stressed out. She's like everybody's favorite aunt, right? This is a person that understands constitutional law better than anyone. This is a person that has discovered that germ warfare still is very much intact and in use. This is a person that helped to uncover, along with this person here, which is Sasha Latyapova, helped to uncover the fact that all of the mechanisms by which the COVID vaccines are made are done under faulty pretenses. They're not regulated. There's no safety protocol. There's no clinical trials. There's nothing. Because the Department of Defense is in charge of it, so there doesn't have to be. So she uncovered all this. This person is doing things to benefit, the state of Pennsylvania, doing things to benefit the country. When she goes and says, fill out this affidavit of noncompliance to show that you will not comply with war crimes, unfortunately, this is part of what being in the middle of a war crime is about being on the right side of history. So this idea that doing something like this would officially put you on a list, I would say that the more official, action or mechanism to put you on a list would be, say, like having a job. That would be more, put you in more danger than something like this. So I wanted to address that, and if anybody has any questions, they can certainly email me. And this is what the affidavit of noncompliance looks like in a PDF. And then you would just sign it at the bottom and hand it over to your county clerk, pay your filing fee, and they will stamp it, give it a case number, and file it under civil miscellaneous. One thing here that I wanted to address as well was Bailiwick News' latest post on her Substack, Catherine's Substack, which is that the U.S. government has incrementally transferred and hidden joint DoD and HHS chemical and biological warfare programs in the Public Health Service Act and the Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act, such that federally funded, federally directed public health programs and products are actually bioterrorism programs. So yes, the germ warfare program still is still is happening, still is in existence. It's simply been rehomed under the HHS with this nice little marriage between the DoD and the HHS. So I'm going to recommend that you guys go and read this as well. And then the last thing I want to do is bring up this Forbes article regarding the film that premiered last night. The nonsensical lack of thought process that goes into accusing people who are questioning whether the vaccines are actually safe or even effective, and accusing those people of being a part of the QAnon crowd or whatever is quite nonsensical, because the people that are questioning it they're not making billions of dollars by questioning. So I guarantee, even with his great background in media and everything, I guarantee Stu Peters has not made $1 billion in making this Died Suddenly film, which he premiered for free last night. The only reason to accuse another side of being controlled opposition is if that side is benefiting from being controlled opposition. If they're not, and there's none of these people are getting paid. Does this person look like she's getting paid $1 billion? Does this person look like she's getting paid $1 billion to act as controlled opposition? I don't think so. So this is not, this doesn't even make sense. Saying that they're conspiracy theorists or they fail an IQ test. It doesn't make any sense because nobody's benefiting. Do you think that the embalmers who were pulling out what looked like entrails out of people's arms, dead people's arms, do you think that these embalmers are making billions of dollars by coming out and being a part of this died suddenly movie? What about the whistleblowers in the military? Are they making billions of dollars? Like, it doesn't make any sense to come out and say, hey, look, I get to talk about death. Isn't this a great thing? Like, who would want to do that? Who would want to do that? Nobody would want to do that. So it doesn't make any sense. Once again, these kinds of hit pieces, they just kind of fall flat, and they really show that Bruce Wiley isn't really doing his job as a senior contributor to Forbes. He's not really doing the investigation, and he's not really following the money. He's a very shoddy journalist, I guess. So I wanted to just kind of bring that up and end this with that. So I'm working on war crimes right now, which is the next title of my video essay. I'm learning a new tool. I may or may not incorporate some of the effects of that tool into the video essay, but I'm taking my time with it because I want to get it right. And, we're archiving history in the age of COVID, so I feel like I need to get it right. Okay, have a great afternoon, and thanks for listening. Bye-bye.